Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Horizon. In this video, I'd like to talk about SIRIS KSANA DPS and weapon comparison. The weapon I'm gonna compare is SIRIS signature weapon, Crown Flare, free-to-play weapon SIRIS, and Tiny Grants. Before that, I'm gonna show you a quick calculation verification first between these three weapons. This is my SIRIS KSANA stat, her temporary logistic stat, max level tier 1 Crown Flare stat, level 1 tier 1 SIRIS stat, and level 1 tier 1 Tiny Grant stat. I doesn't need to build both of that weapon since this is just to verify the number between this calculation and the actual damage. Here is SIRIS ultimate skill damage to single target enemy when using her signature weapon tier 1. The damage is this much when having 9 stack of rejuvenation effect. If we compare with the calculation, the percentage variation is about this much, still between plus minus 1%. When SIRIS is equipped with level 1 tier 1 free-to-play weapon SIRIS, her ultimate skill damage is this much when having 20 stack of rejuvenation effect, still in plus minus 1%. And when SIRIS using level 1 tier 1 Tiny Grants, her ultimate skill damage is this much when having 11 rejuvenation effect and the increased damage taken effect from the weapon skill is active. Also still in plus minus 1%, which is acceptable. That's all the verification for 3 of this weapon. Now let's get to the main topic. The calculation for this comparison is using SIRIS stat at manifestation 2. The weapon stat is here, Crown Flare tier 2 stat and tier 1 stat, SIRIS tier 5 stat, Tiny Grants tier 1 stat. For her logistic stat is here. The logistic have 2 grade B HP percent talent, which is 14% total, and 2 B grade elemental damage for the third talent, which is 11.8% total. Because the damage taken increase from the Tiny Grants weapon skill can only active when the user take damage from the enemy. Also the effect duration is very short, that only active for 3 seconds, that make its activation is very unstable. So I reduce the effect amount by 25% for this calculation. Why 25%? Just a feeling, you know? Maybe the actual condition can be worse considering that not all the time boss attack will land on SIRIS, so sometimes your standard skill or ultimate skill didn't get the benefit from this effect. And here is the final damage increase if SIRIS ultimate skill consume 120 resilience. From here you can notice that SIRIS shooting sustain DPS is lower than her standard skill sustain DPS. So make sure to shoot only when you want to reduce her ultimate skill cooldown more quickly. Also here shows the signature weapon downside, where Crown Flare second skill only active when SIRIS is charging her standard skill or ultimate skill, and the effect duration is only 0.5 seconds, so as soon as SIRIS done charging and dealing damage with her skill, the effect will disappear and didn't give any benefit for SIRIS shooting damage. If only the effect can also buff SIRIS shooting damage, her shooting DPS would be able to surpass her standard skill DPS when using her signature weapon. The support skill damage, and here is the ultimate skill damage when all 5 marks is applied on one target, while this one is the ultimate skill damage when each mark is applied to each enemy. The damage is higher because each mark can deal 100% damage, while if all marks is stacked up to one enemy, the second until the 5th mark damage will decrease. And here is the total sustain DPS, including the rejuvenation stack up time from 0 to 20 stack. In order to calculate this, I calculate it manually using the basic skill rotation. Triple standard skill to accumulate the 120 resilience, followed by using ultimate skill, and then another triple standard skill to gain 120 resilience, then shooting 3 times to reduce the ultimate skill cooldown, and followed by using ultimate skill again. Congratulations, you have reached the 20 stack of rejuvenation effect. Then repeat the cycle again in the 20 stack of rejuvenation effect. The skill rotation sustain DPS from beginning until here is this for each weapon. And below here is the sustain DPS by ignoring the rejuvenation uptime. So by assuming the rejuvenation effect is 20 stack all the time. So the percentage comparison between each weapon is here. Tier 2 Crown Flare is almost 15% more higher than Tier 1 Crown Flare. Tier 1 Crown Flare is 14% more higher than Tier 5 free-to-play weapon KSANA. And Tier 1 Crown Flare is 25% more higher than Tiny Grains. In summary, the gap between signature weapon Tier 1 and free-to-play weapon Tier 5 is quite near, only about 40 or 15%, it's not more than 30% like Cherno Enigma case. So I guess it's quite acceptable if you are saving for anniversary and don't want to pull for her signature weapon. Also, if you have Tiny Grains, don't use it on SIRIS KSANA, because SIRIS is a skill DPS operative where her damage scale with max HP more than loadout attack. Meanwhile, Tiny Grains can only provide attack stat to SIRIS. So it is better to use her free-to-play weapon than Tiny Grains. Now here is the main issue. Her DPS is so low, you know. Even when using her signature weapon Tier 1, you can already see that her sustain DPS in Manifestation 2 can easily surpass two of the strongest DPS Katia Blue Bolt and Cherno Enigma sustain DPS. Of course in the same state or condition. That is why I think she need more buff, just like Katia case, you know, where she come out as a top meta waifu with a high DPS and still so many players demand to buff her. From what I say, you must be confused right now. Yeah, me too bro, me too. You can read this statement yourself that announced by the developer, where some players complaining about SIRIS KSANA DPS still low and demand more buff on her signature weapon and free-to-play weapon. I don't know how they use her. Her boba already got buffed a lot and now they want to buff her damage again. That will make her transform from a goldfish become a whale, and now a whale become a Leviathan. Now you understand, right? Why she need more buff? Well, if you compare Cherno Enigma plus Enya Exuvia versus SIRIS KSANA plus Enya Exuvia, you can really see the differentiation in there. Because Cherno can fully activate or utilize all Enya buff, meanwhile SIRIS is like Haru Absconditus and Fritia has that can't fully utilize Enya buff for a long duration. That will make sense, her DPS will lower than Cherno Enigma or other skill DPS. From my calculation, it's a raw DPS without getting buff from other support operative, so you can really see the DPS comparison more clearly. Also, please refer to this sustain DPS as a comparison because the rejuvenation stack uptime is quite slow. I don't know, will she get buff or not? Let's just wait for the future news. Will she become a Leviathan or not? So the conclusion is, her signature weapon Crown Flare Tier 2 is 15% more higher than Crown Flare Tier 1. Her free-to-play weapon KSANA Tier 5 is 12% more lower than Crown Flare Tier 1. Or you can also say that Crown Flare Tier 1 is 15% more higher than KSANA Tier 5. Tiny Grains Tier 1 is 20% more lower than Crown Flare Tier 1. Or you can also say Crown Flare Tier 1 is 25% more higher than Tiny Grains Tier 1. I swear she is really worth investing bro. Her boba and her skill DPS is great, but saving for anniversary is even better. I will upload a new video about her skill, team compilation, and her logistic talent priority. So stay tuned. That's all from me. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Cheers.